Hey YouTube, Wendell Well Services, coming back at you again. Thanks for tuning in for another episode here. Kind of going off a video that I did a couple weeks ago. This is regarding what if you're buying a house that's on a well and you never had a well, some tips to consider. So the topic of this video is gonna be similar along that point, but more focused on the actual pumping system itself and what you moved into the house. 5 things to consider about a well pump and its pumping system. So tip number 1, I would say that's most important to consider is know how to cut your well pump off, know how to turn the water off. This is going to be by number 1, knowing where the pump breaker is, or number 2, knowing where your isolation valve is after your tank. Most people, if they have a tank up under the house and they have a water leak in the house or a water line that's busted outside and they need to cut the water off, their first choice may not be crawl up under the house and get to the isolation valve, maybe cut the breaker off. In my situation, if I have if there's a leak out in the garage or a leak out in the yard, it may be faster just to come out here and turn the valve off. So just know where to cut your pump off. That way if you have a leak, that's going to be the first thought going through your mind anyway, is how do I stop the water from flowing into the house or flowing out in the yard or wherever it's going, right? So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2, if you have a filter on your house, know where it is, and get into a habit of checking that about once every other month. Depending on what kind of filter it is, this may involve flushing the filter out to clean it, or if it's a cartridge filter, you may need to screw the bowl off and actually change the filter element itself, which is going to involve you having a way to isolate the filter via 2 isolation valves, or going back to tip number 1, which is cutting your pump off at the breaker and draining the system. So that's tip number 2. Know where your filter is and kind of get into a habit of check it about once every other month, see if your pressure's going down, see if the filter looks like it needs to be changed, those kind of things. Tip number 3 along those lines, if you have a well pump that's down in the well that's submersible, you're not going to be able to check it. So the next best thing is going to be to check your well tank. Almost every well tank has a cap on it. Just screw this cap off and check the pressure in it with a regular tire gauge. Main thing to consider when you're checking your air pressure in your tank is to have the system drained, which is going to, again, you're going to have to know where your breaker is for your pump so you can drain the system down. If I were to stick a tire gauge on this right now, it would read the exact same pressure that's on this gauge here, which is about 45 pounds. So get in the habit of checking your tank for proper air charge. This doesn't have to be done once every other month. You can do that about once a year. This is going to tell you if you need to pump some air in it, or if you've got a say you go to check this and water comes out of it, it's going to be a sign for you that your bladder in your tank is failing and that you need to plan on having your tank changed out pretty soon. That's tip number 3. Tip number 4, this may be harder for you to do if you just bought the house or weren't involved when the house was being built, is know where your water lines are going. We get a lot of calls where somebody's complaining of low water pressure, and sure enough, they weren't the original homeowner of the house, and we show up and start walking through the yard or on their property, and lo and behold, way off in the distance somewhere, there's a busted pipe that the homeowner didn't know about, or it was run to an old house or an old barn at one time and it was capped off and then the cap's rusted out, or something's falling on it. You kind of get where I'm going with this. So just kind of have a general idea of where water lines are going in your yard. Again, if you've just got a just got a smaller property where it's your well's only serving house, this is going to be fairly easy. But if you got a larger property like a horse farm or a cattle farm, you may have water lines stretching out way off in the distance somewhere, and a cow could have come up and prodded their nose against one of the cattle waterers and stuck it open. You don't know. So tip number 4 is just going to be know where all your water lines are going. This could be a big help for you if you start seeing issues with water pressure. You could have a busted pipe somewhere or something hung open somewhere that's causing your well to be pulled down and your pressure to drop. And then finally, the last tip I'll give you is just to be proactive about your well. Say you've moved into a house and the previous homeowner or the previous real estate agent or whoever, they didn't know anything about the well, didn't know any information on it. Be proactive. Most wells that have been constructed recently, being in the last 30, 25 years or so, they should have a little tag on them like this, which should give the well contractor's name, address, phone number, information on the well regarding depth, flow rate, that kind of thing. This is a good starting point for you. Pick up the phone and call your well contractor and find out whatever information you can on it regarding your pump setting, how deep the pump is in the well, how many times it's been changed out, that kind of thing. I can assure you it's going to help you out to know everything you can about your well system, how old it is, how deep your pump's set, what size pump it is. And then also your well contractor is going to be very appreciative that you're actually calling and concerned about the system that you have installed. So just wanted to give you 5 tips to consider if you're new to wells and new to having a well pump. Best thing to do is just stay intuitive, stay proactive, and if you're staying proactive, this is going to help you be able to I would say, diagnose a problem easier if you start having issues. So thanks for watching. Check us out at WendellWellServices.com, and stay tuned to our YouTube channel for more videos coming up in the future. Appreciate it.